think we are ready to get started. So we're going to begin with opening statements. And for opening statements, we are going to start with our first candidate, Siobhan Yu.
Thank you, Ryan. Hi, everyone. Lovely to see your faces today. My name is Siobhan Yu. As a gay, first-generation male nursing student of color who came from a family of refugees, I know what it's like to be questioned about the spaces I occupy, and I've been frequently told that I do not belong. Growing up in the Portland area, I was told that UP, sitting near one of the wealthiest zip codes in Oregon, was not a place for someone with a background like mine. Since coming here, I found my home at UP, taking on various leadership and volunteer positions within roles like the university's Vaccine Policy Task Force, the Pilots Matter Period Menstrual Products Project, the School of Nursing's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force, which we plan to evolve into a model for other schools, and more. I'm eager to join ASUP because I am compelled to continue my work in challenging the toxic narrative that UP is a school for the top 1%, and to transform ASUP into a body that advocates placing minority needs at the forefront of our student government's agenda. If given the Director of Communications position and given the honor of your vote, I would be granted the power to mediate the relationships between the student body, student government, campus administration, and our community partners. Community partners which I am very familiar with, given my background growing up, volunteering and working in the Portland area with various grassroots political and civil rights organizations. I aim to align all these parties towards a goal of cultivating an active, diverse, equitable, and inclusive campus culture using ASUP's channels to promote minority excellence and amplify minority voices, voices which are too often silenced in such systems of powers to be, especially in the crises of injustices we're seeing today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. Now we're going to move down the arbitrary order that it appears on my screen, and Simone Watkins.
Hi, everyone. I'm Simone. I am a sophomore computer science major running for Director of Communications along with everyone else. This last year, I worked as the engineering senator, one of the engineering senators, and through that, I was really able to experience how fantastic ASUP can be in terms of being a force for change. I've been able to meet with the Dean of Engineering and sit on plenty of committees that have talked about inciting change. And I believe that through being the Director of Communications, I'll be able to have a greater role and a greater scope. I believe that the University of Portland deserves to be a home for all students, no matter what your background is. And I can attest personally to how isolating it can be, especially when you first come here. And ultimately, I want to make it as welcoming and happy as it can be, because it can be a really wonderful place where you can feel at home and you can be the greatest version of yourself. And so that's what I want to create. And I plan to create that through various placement tests, potentially like to place you in a club. I plan to do that by connecting you through social media and through physical means if I happen to have the chance. But I do look forward to answering questions. And if you have any questions, absolutely reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
All right, thank you so much, Simone. Maddie Halverson, opening statements?
Hi, I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, host has disabled screen sharing. Okay, that's all right. So my name is Maddie Halverson. I am a senior, rising senior. I'm a communications major and I'm minoring in gender and women's studies as well as theater. And my platform, I'm so sorry, I was expecting to be able to share my screen. Okay, there we go.
You should be able to screen share now.
Sorry?
You should be able to screen share now.
Okay, thank you. There we go. Okay, I'm sorry. So qualifications. So I'm a communications major. So I have 3 years of communications courses completed and feel confident taking on a leadership position. I'm a gender and women's studies minor, which means I'm committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I also want to hold the school accountable and strive for intersectional equality. I'm a senior. I love life on the bluff and want to make it great for future students. And oops, and it won't let me go to the next slide. Okay, experience. So last year I had an internship in London where I ran social media and assisted with communications. I was in charge of keeping the community tuned into the company's news and productions. Earlier this year, I was awarded Employee of the Month at my job in retail, where I make a continuous effort to connect and communicate with customers. My platform is pretty straightforward. I have a passion for collaboration and listening, of a desire to seek resolutions through clear and frequent communication. I wish to make UP more inclusive for future students, and I have beliefs in Black Lives Matter and intersectional feminism. And some reasons why I'm just a cool person. I have a fat cat named Hagrid. I know the words to every single Taylor Swift song. I have Peppa Pig stickers on my Hydro Flask, and I own exactly 6 Barbie movies on DVD. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Maddie. All right, Maggie Blummer, let's hear from you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Maggie Blummer, and I am a third-year organizational communication major with a minor in entrepreneurship. I am an outsider to ASUP, and I've been wanting to join ASUP since I'd say freshman year. I just haven't really had the courage to do it, and I haven't really had the time to do it, but I have some time opening up next year, so I would really love to be a part of it. Some of the experience that I am involved in on campus and just in general is I am on the executive board of our new Students Against Sexual Assault Club on campus, and I assist in creating social media posts and kind of just collaborating as a group in an activist group, which is really rewarding and awesome. I also work for the Office of Admissions as a tour guide, student ambassador, and the social media coordinator. I came into the social media coordinator role right when the pandemic hit, so in March, and that was really overwhelming for me because I had to start a new position while working with people from across the country, in Texas and in Portland, and prospective students over via video chat and on Instagram and stuff like that. Those experiences have really taught me how to communicate in an online setting and in a physical setting, which is really awesome. Some of the things that I will be running on are, our accessibility, transparency, and just overall social media awareness, and just more information on social media. And I would love to get into those when I have more time, but thank you.
All right, Victoria Bashnov, let's hear about you and your platform.
Hi. My name is Victoria Bashnov. I'm a junior psychology major and a constitutional studies minor. I'm really excited to be running for director of communications here at UP. Over the years, I have gained invested interest in the happiness of my fellow students. I started freshman year and currently run the pre-law society here because I wanted to get more involved. After losing the vice presidential race last semester, I still wanted to get as involved as I could. I joined the communications committee, which sparked my interest in this position. I believe I could be a strong asset to the executive board because I have gained so much leadership and communication experience as the president of a club and a member of the comm committee. I don't want to lay out a whole resume on why I'm an asset to the team, but I do believe that some of my experience has shaped the way I interact with people, and now I'm able to emotionally open up to people. Other than official academic experience, I started my own website and blog that focus on my creative outlets. If I win this position, I want to bring my creativity to ASUP and to the social media account. I believe that in addition to extreme transparency, the students also need to be intrigued by the posts and motivated to get involved. Throughout my jobs at UP and in retail work outside of UP, I have learned how to communicate with people to a whole new level. I hope to start more programs as the director of communications that allow students to be as transparent with us as we hope to be with them. I want to start an app that allows students to send in anonymous suggestions to ASUP and to UP as a whole. I also want to make consistent and aesthetic posts on the ASUP news page that motivates students to share their voices with us. As a very normal student, just like every one of you, that is exactly what would motivate me to look into the ASUP page more. It would also motivate me to get involved. I believe that social media is an extremely powerful tool. I think my ideas on reforming the ASUP News Instagram, with that, I can help people feel like they're just like me and then they have just as big of a voice as everyone as me on the ASUP board. With my campaign, I wanted to showcase my skills with social media and creative posts. I wanted to do this instead of being very official because I want to show exactly who I am as a person. Although my ideas for this position are big, I don't want to only present myself as a serious person. I hope that my outsider perspective to ASUP and previous experience in leadership brings fresh eyes to this community. Thank you.
And last but not least, Karen Kim, let's hear from you.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen and I am currently a rising junior studying education and double majoring in psychology. I had the wonderful opportunity of being the School of Education Senator my fall semester of my sophomore year. However, I had to sadly resign to it due to class miscommunications. With my experience, not just on campus, however, my experiences outside of campus, whether that be running a social media account based on self-care and increasing it to 50,000 followers in over a year, or building up a club with just my voice to raise over $500 and getting appreciated by multiple mayors. I believe that a voice that is often in the back as an introvert should be able to take on a position as wide as the director of communications. Although I did take the position of one of the smallest colleges of University of Portland, I believe that that is truly important and everyone's voice is meant to be heard, no matter what major you have, no matter what background you may be in. Everybody is the same, and at the end of the day, our mental health and our physical health is most important. I have 3 platforms that I am running towards, and those are diversity, mental health, and transparency. ASUP should have diverse leaders, which will allow for a lot of viewpoints, and I believe that through my experiences and future experiences, I'll be able to bring a lot of new opportunities to the table. Thank you.
All right, thank you all so much for that. I just want to get straight to the heart of qualifications to start out this debate. The communications director is someone who manages and oversees the communication between ASUP and the student body. What about your unique perspective and personal experience qualifies you to carry the burden of relaying important government information to thousands of students? Simone, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think that personally understanding the scope of the position and understanding how important and utterly crucial it is very important. But in addition to that, I think I am a student who is pretty traditionally overlooked, like most of these other people here. And I think that understanding that we are the students who desperately need to be protected and desperately need to be talked to so that we stay, because students of color are leaving and students of color don't feel safe, and students of color believe that the University of Portland is not a place that wants them, and that's just not true, because we're all here and we all want you. And so I think that that is a particularly important aspect of who I am that will really inform every decision that I make, because how can it not? So.
All right, Victoria, how about you? Tell us about some of your unique qualifications and experience that inform you in this role.
perfect. I was just about to raise my hand anyway. So for me personally, I have been on the executive board of many positions. I am the Psychology Honor Society executive board member, and I have ran a social media account for a business. And so I feel like I have been put in the position to like relay information constantly, plan events, and all that type of stuff. And I feel like with my experience and all the jobs I have had to be extremely communicative. And over the years, that has made me be communicative to the point where I'm not afraid to share, like if I messed up or if there's hard facts to share. So I think my experience could be very useful in this position because I am a strong communicator and I think everyone deserves to be heard and deserves to hear the straight up facts about the university and about what's going on here for them to make up the decision themselves on what to do or what to think about everything going on.
Great, thank you so much. Anyone else want to talk about their qualifications before we move on? Oh, Maggie.
I couldn't find the unmute button. Yeah, so similarly to Victoria, I've run a couple of Instagram accounts in my time. Like I said in my opening statement, I am the social media coordinator for the Office of Admissions, which means I am in charge of relaying a bunch of information, whether that be tour information or webinar information or information to committed students already, to about thousands of them. And that is something that I found very difficult at first, but I've come to get very comfortable doing live streams on Instagram and stuff like that. But I think those things really make me qualified because I've had to learn how to use things like Canva and other poster making platforms to make those webinars and that information very accessible and easy to get for those students. Like I said, I'm also on the e-board of SASA, and I really help create those posters and that information giving stuff. And I think one really big quality of being a good communicator is to create accessible information that can be easily processed for any human.
Siobhan, you have a response?
Yes, thank you, Ryan. And to talk about my qualifications as to why I'm qualified to take on this role of Director of Communications. Like Maggie, I have also had experience using media technology such as Canva and other online poster platforms. But specifically what sets me apart is I have used those platforms for the purposes of political campaigns. Specifically in my hometown of Hillsboro, Oregon, on the west side of Portland, I have helped to make Canva material to help Miss Si Yoon Kim get elected to the Hillsboro School Board, the first Asian American woman to represent our school district and my API community, especially during this time when we need it most, and also Kathy Y in North Clackamas School District in Portland as well. And I think that offers a unique perspective in me being focused on action items. A lot of these politically focused Instagram posts have to involve action items. And I think that that's a critical part of our media communications, making sure that students not just know what's going on, but how can we get involved? What are the next steps and what can we do?
Maddie, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot of people are saying they have experience with running social media accounts. And that's definitely something I've done. As I mentioned, I interned in London running a social media account. But I think something that sets me apart is that I'm also minoring in theater. So I'm very comfortable speaking in front of people and not just making digital content, but getting up and speaking in front of people, communicating with people, and talking about issues that need to be spoken about. I think that the root of many problems is miscommunication and people not fully understanding where the other person is coming from. And a trait that I have that I'm really am proud of myself of is that like I love listening to both sides and finding where things went wrong and then being able to work through and find that resolution.
Simone, you have a response?
Yeah, I'm afraid I misunderstood the question and I'm sorry about that. But like everyone else, I have experience running Instagram accounts. For example, I am the BSU communications director. I've ran my election campaign and I have the next like week and a half of posts kind of planned out. But in addition to being really good at social media, I'm also really good at being kind of more of a leader, because part of being a communications director is being the chair of the communications committee. And I'm good at delegating. I'm good at ensuring that people trust me and feel like they can come to me if they've messed up or have a problem, and I'm not going to judge them for that. I feel like that's one of my strengths, that I can really do a great job in that position and be a good e-board member too.
Great, thank you. So we're going to move on to the next question now, unless if no one has anything to add. And Karen, I'm going to throw this question to you first. A lot of us just talked about our different campus involvement. Some of us are involved in clubs, organizations, different honor societies. You know, through your connections and your perception of the campus, what do UP students need most from ASUP right now? And as communications director, how are you going to help them get it? Karen.
I think one of the most important things that students, especially now, need is people, and just being there for people and being a great listener. I feel like since we're stuck in Zoom University and it just keeps us trapped into a computer, we don't really get friendly like interactions if we're not on campus. And I feel that it would be important to make ASUP listen to those voices and realize that there needs to be people voices heard. And going off of that, ASUP does do a really good job of listening to their constituents. However, sometimes there are voiceless or overlooked voices that need to be represented and talked about more. And I feel like that is something big that I would work on.
Yeah, in response to that, to the question, I think what students need the most, to be honest, is like a platform for them to speak themselves, because I don't want to sit here and act like I am like the voice of all students and I can speak for them myself. I want to be able to create more areas for students to speak up. Like I mentioned in my opening statement, some sort of app or some sort of service that they can input anonymous suggestions to ASUP or into UP, or things that we should talk about or bring to light. I want to make sure that people feel safe to come forward or safe to talk about something that they don't necessarily want their name on or want to like come forward with themselves on their own. So I think that they need something so that they can be pushed or feel motivated to talk or to bring up things in the easiest way possible.
I believe that students most need amplification and connection, and that's kind of double-sided. So they need amplification in that everybody can see all of their achievements, that they feel heard, that they have been seen by both the administration and student government, that they have rightfully earned their place on campus. And on top of that, they need to be connected with each other and with us. They need to feel like they have friends and support systems on campus, which is both, you know, making sure that you have your peers and your classmates, but also making sure that you have faculty and advisors and people who you can look up to within the administration that can really make you feel like you have a voice and you are important on campus.
Thank you, Simone. To answer the question, what do I think UP students need the most right now? I've been hearing a lot of conversation around the need for mental health services and for the HCC specifically to step up, but how much of a nightmare it has been to reserve appointments there, especially during these trying times online in Zoom University, as Karen had said. Um, and I have a little sister who's going through online school, and I would absolutely not trust the HCC in the state that it is in now to book an appointment with them because of the fact of how I'm hearing through my position in the university's vaccine task force of how backlogged the HCC is. I hear a lot of students complaining about the HCC and how much they hate it, and the HCC saying that we have to wait weeks and weeks for appointments. And I think a huge part of the underlying tension there is miscommunication. The fact that there's a question of what does the HCC do? The HCC is not just involved in students' care, but also documenting, making sure that students are in compliance with vaccinations. My role as a director of communications would be to get that word out there and advocate for the HCC to have some of that work outsourced, to have some of that work be done in third-party organizations so that way the HCC can serve its sole purpose to be serving students. Thank you.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Siobhan. I think working with the HCC through SASA individually, through SASA and individually, it is incredibly frustrating at times. And I completely agree that mental health resources are needed at any college campus, especially at a campus like UP and a predominantly white campus at UP. I think those things are really important. Something that all of us have also said is I think clear, concise, and direct communication is the way to solve, not completely solve, but it really helps avoid a lot of problems. When SASA was transitioning from an organization to a club, we were all relatively overwhelmed by it because we didn't really know where to start. But we had great support from the executive board in the ASUP and the senators, and through student activities. The staff there was incredibly helpful. And I am very grateful that SASA had that smooth and that helpful of a transition. And my goal, one of my goals as the director of communications, is to help facilitate that smooth transition and that smooth growth of a club. Because I'm not sure if every club has gotten that at UP, and I would love to make that as easy and accessible as possible.
Okay, even if I wasn't running for director of communications, my answer for this question would still be the same. The number one thing that students need right now is clear communication. I think one of the hardest things about going through COVID online is just how back and forth communications have been. Like finding out that we were going to online school like 2 weeks before school started. That was a very stressful thing to happen. And as director of communications, I would definitely take initiative to make sure that all communications going to students would be clear and concise and available to students as readily as possible. Especially with Black Lives Matter earlier this year and how back and forth the school administration was about where they stood on the issue. I don't think that that was an okay position for them to have taken so late in the game. And I think that as student government, we need to take initiative and step up and be the leaders on campus that we want to be.
All right. Well, if there's no more follow-up to that, I noticed that a lot of us were talking about our connection to marginalized groups, how as communications directors, we want to provide a voice and a platform for marginalized groups on campus. And we got a question in the chat that I thought tied in well to that. The question came from Adeline and it said, some responsibilities noted, we're creating town halls. As the director of communications, how will you build a rapport with students and establish a safe and brave space for students to voice their concerns, specifically BIPOC and LGBTQIA+ students? Siobhan?
Yeah, I can speak to this. So, how I plan to build rapport between students and establish a safe and brave space to voice students' concerns is to model what I see being the wonderful work I see being done on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Student Subcommittee within the School of Nursing. The work that I've seen Adeline, Isaiah, and many of my peers in the DEISS group uh, has been a wonderful thing that I think we should model, not just to only students, but to at a college level, have faculty involved in that movement. Because right now, one of the issues that I'm seeing is that there's so many, there are support groups being made by the DEISS and other student groups as well. But we are talking through our collective grief and our collective experiences being minorities on campus while being the leaders of that conversation. And both those positions are taxing. Having faculty and leaders like ASUP step up and be the ones to take on that role to facilitate that safe space would be an immense rapport building event to have on campus that I think is so critical to making sure that we become a campus that is a safe space for those who feel voiceless.
Maggie?
Yeah, so I agree with you, Siobhan. I think having BIPOC students and the LGBTQIA plus students in leadership positions is really important. I think holding town halls and listening sessions for those students who want to learn more is really important. Something that I didn't really see very prominently on the ASUP News Instagram was after the AAPI communities after that tragedy happened. I didn't see very many resources. And although I personally can look at other resources that I have on Instagram and other platforms, I think it would be really important to kind of create a collective group of information for people to look at, because sometimes ASUP are the students' first point of contact when it comes to big campus things happening. I also think the Health and Counseling Center, as we talked about before, could definitely be improved in that. I think getting LGBTQIA plus counselors and BIPOC counselors can really help support those communities. I can't imagine what it would be like to talk to a white counselor when you're struggling, a white or straight counselor when you're struggling with your identity like that. And I think pushing for that kind of stuff is really important, just like we pushed for the ethnic studies program and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie. I think in addition to clearly making sure that the BIPOC and LGBTQIA communities have those spaces to speak, I think it's incredibly exhausting to feel tokenized almost to an extent, where you feel like because you share this identity, you are the sole person who needs to put in that emotional labor of telling everybody why they should care about you and your life and your emotional well-being. So I feel like something that's really crucial is educating everybody who does not specifically fit in these communities and helping them understand why they should care, what the history is, understanding how they can best be allies, because I know over the summer I felt incredibly tokenized and I felt incredibly exhausted, constantly trying to yell, you should care about me and you should care about people like me. And I mean, I'm pretty sure just about every Black student got one white friend being like, hey, you know, how can I be a better ally to you? And it's like, it's tiring. So I think that that's something really important that, especially through town halls, should be really considered in terms of educating people who aren't familiar with the history and the struggles of those communities.
I completely agree with what you're saying. And I don't want to sit here and act like I know what it's like to be a minority. I don't want to like speak for any minorities at all. So that's why I feel like if I were the director of communications, I would want to be able to create lots of talking spaces for students who are minorities. And I like other than town halls, I want to make there be more dialogue and more posts that focus on these kinds of issues taken from people that face these issues. I don't want to be the person speaking for anyone. So I think if there's a lot of dialogue open up by different people in different communities that face different things on campus, then it will definitely show everyone following ASUP, everyone in the university, what it's like to be a student here personally that is in one of these communities that is struggling on campus. And I think that will hopefully create a lot more compassion from other students and help with any other events for it to feel like more of a safe space.
Thank you, Victoria. Yeah, similar to you, as a white woman, like I have, I can't imagine what it's like to be a person of color and trying to fit in at a majority white campus. However, as the director of communications, I know my place is to listen to your voices and listen to what issues arise, and to really elevate those voices and lift those voices up and give them the platform that they need to be heard. Um, I definitely believe in striving for better communication, clear emails, clear Instagram posts, and listening to everything that other people are saying.
I agree. I also believe that ASUP has done amazing with their town halls, especially their COVID-19 one. And I think that it's important to bring these town halls, especially for BIPOC and LGBTQ plus communities, and making sure that they have a space to talk, but also bringing the people who aren't in those communities and making sure that everybody's voices are heard. Because from personal experience, I can tell that I usually hide those away because I don't feel comfortable talking to the majority about what I've experienced, whether it be the hate that's going around right now with the Asian community, or the things that seem very minimal and very like it shouldn't matter, but mean a lot to me and to others. I think it's important, no matter how small it may be, it may impact someone incredibly a lot. And it's important to, whether it be the smallest thing or the biggest thing, it needs to be talked about, whether it's in town halls or posts or emails.
Yeah, thank you all so much for those extremely thoughtful answers. I want to now get into something that's a little bit central to the role of the Director of Communications and kind of central to the culture of our university. On one hand, we have an administration that is largely run by the Holy Cross. It's a more conservative, traditional type of administration. And we have a student body that is very young and progressive and wants to move in new directions. ASUP relies on the administration in cooperation with the administration to get things done on campus. But they are also put in an awkward position where they have to criticize this administration on behalf of the students quite often. As the director of communications, you're caught right in the middle of that. And my question to you, and Maddie, I'll start with you. How do you balance maintaining that healthy relationship with this administration and advocating for the student body?
Yeah, thank you. I was actually just about to raise my hand. So perfect. I've gone to Catholic school since kindergarten, so I am very well versed in Catholic teaching, Catholic policies. Um, as a practicing Catholic who has somewhat left the church, because I'm a very progressive person, I've found myself very much in the middle of many issues while growing up in the faith. But I've really learned how to balance it and how to still identify as Catholic. Um, for me personally, I know that Jesus's number one teaching is to love everyone and love everyone respectfully. And I, with my identities and like feminism and supporting Black Lives Matter. I think that is exactly where Jesus's beliefs lie. And so I think that, circling back to answering your question, um, I have no issue in calling out the administration when it needs to be called out, but also I feel very confident in my ability to word things and know how to handle it respectfully and still honor the church and the Catholic tradition.
Thank you, Maddie. I love everything that you said. Like I've said, as an executive board member of Students Against Sexual Assault Club on campus, we wrote an open letter to the Title IX administration at the beginning of this year, so beginning of last semester. And through SASA, we've worked very closely with Title IX all throughout SASA's life, I guess. That was a very overwhelming and hard thing to do, is creating that article, because it was very close to burning bridges, and it was almost scary for us because Title IX is one of our support systems as SASA. And I think we did everything we could to make it as respectful as we did. And we still have a very good relationship with Title IX, and we're still invited to all of their committees and their meetings. I serve on some of their committees. And I think exactly like Maddie said, I think kind and clear communication and clear criticism of their of certain teachings or of certain values they have is incredibly important. And I think to remind people that we are, as I've learned, giving tours and just being at UP, our administration wants us to succeed. Our teachers want us to succeed. And I think to remind them that maybe the way that they're teaching us is not always going to make other people succeed is really important. So kind, clear communication with that administration is really, really important.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely agree. I feel like ultimately all people are good and well-intentioned, even if they're wrong. And so I feel like the best way to go about communication, especially if I disagree with the administration, which I will and I have, is to make sure to contact the people who I feel like are really dropping the ball. And I've had the opportunity to create relationships with a couple of members of the PLC, the Presidential Leader Cabinet, and knowing that they will see that you two are well-intentioned. And at the end of the day, my alliance is to the students. The student body is who I want to see happy and who I really care about their opinions. So I think making sure that the university, understanding where the university's intentions are, but then making sure to communicate that to the student body and say, we, the associated students of the University of Portland, disagree with the administration, and hope for that to be okay.
I totally agree. I love everything you said. I think that honesty is literally the best way. I don't think that there's any way to go wrong necessarily with honesty as long as you word it in the right way. And I think that sharing what the students feel to the faculty is important no matter what. I think sharing it, showing that that is exactly what you've heard from many students. I think there's no way but for them to have to listen, because they want what the students want. The students are their funding as well. They want the students to be there, and they don't want students to leave. So I think just being honest and pushing them slowly to do the work that they need to do to change is the only way to see any sort of change for the students.
To address that question about, how would I, as director of communications, mediate conversations between one group on one hand, CSC, our organization and campus ministry, and our student body, our progressive student body. My experience with that has been that I have had to code switch on multiple occasions and find where is common ground. For example, one of the things I heard from my Asian American and API peers on campus is the lackluster response in the Atlanta shootings, and how sort of the one email by Father Poorman was dissatisfactory. It felt sort of thoughts and prayersy, right? And it almost felt like it didn't really take time to pause, reflect, and collectively grieve this loss of what we can all agree as loss of human dignity, right? As an offense to human dignity, like against specifically the Asian American and female community. And that is work that I have already started and that I continue to do. I've reached out to campus ministry and to try to make that change happen, to try to have sort of a campus ministry event on Friday. But I've also had to do that in the past in my school district, where in a school district meeting, a parent had yelled an obscenity against the Buddhist community. And we had to sort of moderate a discussion in our school district about why all religions deserve respect, deserve dignity, and why fundamentally we all deserve to be treated with equal rights, right? And I think that that's something that we all can agree with, and that is a conversation that I'm capable of navigating. So, thank you.
One point I just wanted to include quickly was I think that birth control is a very big issue, and it's something I'm very passionate about, and access to birth control. And even though we are a school in Catholic tradition, and I can understand why birth control might be something the school wouldn't want to provide, I just, as a student, I know that other Catholic universities, specifically the University of Notre Dame, offers their students birth control. And as the director of communications, that is something that I really want to push for and fight for. And I think that the administration should be, I think that is something that we can achieve as students, is access to birth control. And it's something that we are very far behind in as a campus for not having that accessibility.
All right. Thank you all so much for your extremely thoughtful answers. I had more questions I wanted to ask you all, but we're actually getting close to the end of this debate. So I want to close out with some final thoughts from everyone here. And I'm going to start that off with Victoria. I'd love to hear your final thoughts.
My closing statement or?
Closing statement, yes. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're okay. I just didn't know if you wanted both. Okay, so I just want to be completely honest. I'm not perfect. I'm also not the perfect candidate. However, I do know that I care so very much about my home here at UP and every student I have met and every student I haven't met. I don't want to sit here and lay out a resume on why I'm capable of handling this position, but there are a few things I could say. Growing up, I was taught that sharing your emotions and opening up yourself is the most important thing in the world. I've learned throughout the years that being vulnerable is one of the greatest assets you can share. If I win, I want to make it as easy as possible for you all to share your feelings and your voice at the university. In this position, I don't want to hold myself at a higher status than any of you. I'm completely the same as all of you, and I want to make that clear throughout my time on the executive board. I want to be as accessible as possible to everyone for them to feel like they are heard. I believe if I win, I will completely elevate the system of communication with students in ASUP. I really appreciate seeing everyone wanting to get involved in ASUP. I know multiple of the candidates, and I truly believe that we are moving in an amazing direction with the leadership here at UP. Even if I don't win this election, I hope to be extremely present in leadership during my last year. I want to make a change and make all of your voices heard, whether I get this position or not. If I win, however, it'll be much more attainable to get everyone's attention and carry out my ideas to help students. The amount of amazing individuals I've met at UP over the years have shown me how strong everyone's voices are. I hope that I am able to showcase these voices. Creating more platforms for students to express their opinions and suggestions will hopefully bring us all together in this wild time of life.
All right, Karen, let's hear from you.
In front of us, we have 6 amazing candidates that are running for the same position, and no matter who wins, I believe that everybody has the same goal of wanting UP to be the best school and advocating for change and for voices to be heard. I am a quiet person, I'm not gonna lie, and I feel that through hearing everybody's ideas and hearing that there's always room for change, I want to bring that, although it will be tough as I am part of the 3+1 program. This will be my last chance of running as as a position for ASUP, which would be Director of Communications. I think that everybody deserves to have their voices heard, even if they may feel scared. Creating outlets for that, whether it be anonymous confessions, just being able to have your voice heard by someone who cares about you and will be there for you and will be up here standing by your side is someone that I want to be. Thank you.
Siobhan, closing statements?
Thank you, Karen, and thank you everyone for being present here today. It's such an honor to see this role having the competition that it deserves and to see such a love for our community from you all. My friends from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee have called on me to run and serve our student body at this critical moment, and I listen to them when they say I am the person who ought to represent them in our student government. I listen to them when they say they need a leader who understands being an older sibling, balancing a home life that can be just as overwhelming as their school life. I listen to them when they say they need student leaders to be fellow QT BIPOC community members who they can trust to share their concerns with in advocating for social justice in a time of so much injustice. I listen to them when they say they don't have the generational wealth it takes to afford fair health services. Our QT BIPOC community, student community, are reaching the ends of our bandwidth. Our community is being asked time and time again to be resilient and are offered thoughts and prayers when insufferable things keep happening to us on campus, with things like losing precious QT BIPOC faculty to other institutions, to the lack of mental health support from nationwide trauma like the hate crime against the AAPI and female community in Atlanta. The list goes on, and we need decisive leaders who will mobilize students towards systemic changes, not because they hear the need for systemic change, but because they themselves are impacted directly from the lack of such change. I urge you to listen to my community too, so that together we can make real change happen going forward with my vision for campus. My values come from being raised in a family of refugees, from being raised by the blood, sweat, and tears of a single grandmother, victims to generational trauma, and I lead with my convictions to social justice, which I hope to bring to ASUP as possibly your next Director of Communications. I would be so grateful to have your vote. Please vote me, Siobhan, and together we will march on.
All right. Thank you everyone for sharing. It's been so great talking to you all this evening. So just some final notes on me. I have a strong commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I desire to seek resolution through clear and frequent communication. I'm very excited and passionate about the university. I wish to make UP more inclusive for future students, and I have a passion for collaboration and listening. I love life on the bluff and hope to make a great Director of Communications for everyone. And in conclusion, if being the best candidate for Director of Communications is a disease, I'm pretty sick. Thank you.
I'd like to take my last couple of minutes to answer questions in the chat. So Isaiah asked, what's concrete ways have you and do you commit to furthering the university's DEI efforts? This last year, I've worked on trying to make a student center here at the University of Portland, which would be room for all BIPOC, QT BIPOC, LGBTQIA students would have their place there. Students would feel like they have a place here. All major universities have a student center and UP is behind in that. So that's one way. And in addition to that, I sit on a lot of hiring committees for hiring diverse faculty. So that's another way that I hope to create safe spaces for those students. Kevin asked, what are some of your weaknesses? Because I've heard everyone's strengths. Yeah, one of my weaknesses is I get very excited very, very fast. And then that excitement does die down. And through that excitement, I'm able to kind of front load all of my work and plan. But one of my weaknesses is kind of seeing things through to the end. And the way that I plan on working on that and the way that I have worked on that is by really understanding what my legacy will be when I leave the University of Portland. I want to make something great and I want to do something great. And so I'm able to have that be my motivator through long projects. William asked, how do you best want to bridge the gap with the administration and with the new president next year? I plan on meeting with them. I plan on talking with them. I plan on having the e-board sit in on meetings, on every meeting that I possibly can. I want to be there and I want them to know that the students do want them to succeed, but at the end of the day, they are there for the students. So yeah, if you have any more questions that you want me to answer, absolutely reach out to me. I am completely addicted to my phone, so I will respond to you. And then I hope on March 30th, you join me in picking up your phone and voting for Simone for Communications Director.
Everyone has such nice closing statements. I don't even know how I can follow everyone up. But thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you to my lovely candidates, competitors. This is going to be really fun, I think, and it's going to be really exciting for us. I just want to remind everyone of some of my experience and my values as a person. I am very experienced in communicating with thousands of UP students and UP prospective students and future UP students through our admissions Instagram accounts. That is something that was a struggle for me, and I was able to overcome it, and I'm very proud and grateful that I'm able to have that position. I think I'm a really good planner when it comes to things, especially with social media. Just like Simone, I'm pretty addicted to my phone and pretty addicted to social media, and I think I have a really good passion for social media marketing and making the best of communication processes through there. Some of my goals for next year is to improve the accessibility of ASUP information. I would love to make emails and live streams and stuff like that very accessible for each communication style, whether that means somebody to speak with me over the phone, over email, whatever can make someone as comfortable as possible. I really believe that's the best way to communicate as well. I think transparency, as I said, I had a very positive experience transitioning SASA. Well, all of SASA had a very positive experience transitioning into a club, and I would love to make that a possibility for everyone. And I can't wait for that to happen. And like I said, just social media information, I think just having a diligent, not diligent posting schedule, but to have things posted, reminders for meetings, questions, and Q&As and stuff would be really important. So I can't wait for everyone here to get out and vote. Remember to vote Maggie Blummer if you want direct, clear, and concise communication, because I promise I will be there for that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to all of the candidates for participating tonight. And especially thank you to the audience for listening to all of the candidates tonight. Remember, everyone, oh, hi, Nick, you've got your camera on. Remember, everyone, that elections are on the 30th and the 31st. So if you want to vote, go to the front page of Engage. They'll be open at 8 a.m. on the 30th. You can vote there for whichever candidate you thought did best tonight. We'll also be uploading this video to YouTube. You'll be able to find the link in our Instagram bio when it's there for more elections updates. Go to ASUP_news on Instagram. We've got all of it there, and we've got a lot more info coming on senators and other positions. So again, thank you to everyone for participating. Have a wonderful night and a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.